Mic, camera, action.
All right, big man. Sound. Danny Main. It's all right, know what I mean? It's got a wee favour to ask you.
Hello, Mr. Monk. Can you play football?
Aye.
Good. Would you like to play with us?
Nah.
We're playing the Guards.
Aye. I'm with you. Sound.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Monk.
Welcome back to Filmography, the show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue from past debut through to present day in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest to watch and discuss the next entry from the Focus Filmography and consider how it ranks amidst their career and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. For episode 6, I'm joined by martial arts movie maestro and Lord of Love Island, Chris Phelps, to discuss the 6th appearance of the Stath alongside old school mucker and fellow Ritchie regular Vinnie Jones in Mean Machine. We watch, you listen, and hopefully watch along too. So Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show to discuss this alliterative live action lads mag movie.
Thank you, mate. And what a build up. You know, Love Island and martial arts, yeah, in one sentence. I never thought at my age that'd be how people would know me. But thank you, mate. And I'm looking forward to this one, really am.
Well, you were the only guest to have for this one. I was really, most of them I've just thrown out there and wanted, the people who were enthusiastic about that particular film from the States to volunteer. But I really had this one earmarked for you because of your passion for Burt Reynolds and knowing that this was a remake.
Oh yes, and and I've seen this. I've seen obviously the longish hard Adam Sandler one, which Burt Reynolds stars in as the old guy in it. So, and I've only, you know what, Jax, I've only seen this once, and I've got a very bad memory of it. I don't know whether I've missed the first 10 minutes and that, because there was some bits on it I don't remember. And I've watched bits on YouTube, so I was going in blind, but also because it pretty much just rips off Burt Reynolds' movie. There was nothing unfamiliar, really. It was more that's that, because I've got the Mean Machine Burt Reynolds one I've watched so many times as a kid and growing up. I've got it on DVD and everything. I love it. So, yeah, I was really looking forward to this. I just kept thinking, please don't be bad. Please don't be bad. So.
Well, we'll find out, whether it escaped that fate or not. Do you know of the Burt Reynolds one? Do you call it The Longest Yard or do you call it Mean Machine?
Mean Machine, because when it was released in the UK, it was The Mean Machine. But as the years have gone on, it's become the American name of The Longest Yard. Now, my DVD actually says The Longest Yard on it. And obviously, he's got Mean Machine on his American football jacket. But over here, it was always Mean Machine. I don't know why they changed it in the UK. But yeah, so growing up, I had it as that. But I think it's an American copy I've got, because I've got Hooper as well, Burt Reynolds film from 78. That was done just after the first Smoking the Bandit, which me and Dave obviously reviewed on the VHS. So I don't know. I don't know why they changed it, to be honest, Jack. It's a bit of a weird one, because it always bugged me that everyone calls it The Longest Yard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when this remake came out, that just meant that you were immediately clued in to what it was going to be. Whereas for the rest of us, I guess may have needed the explanation that it's a remake of the Longest Yard.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, I mean, I should have researched this before I come on, because I've never really gone down the rabbit hole of why they changed the name of the UK. There's always some meaning, or there's maybe another film called The Longest Yard that they changed it. That's why they changed the name slightly. It could be something as simple as that. But no, this is going to be interesting, because obviously you've got a lot of people attached to this movie that you think this should have been bigger than what it was, I think. I know it wasn't a massive success, but Vinnie Jones was in a lot of movies, still in a lot of movies now. He's in some terrible movies now, but riding off the back of Gone in 60 Seconds and Lock, Stock, he did Lock, Stock first, then Gone in 60 Seconds. He did a lot of good stuff.
Him and Stath have such an, because obviously they start together in Lock, Stock, don't they? And they have this really kind of, at this point of their career, this really interesting parallel. I think this is Vinnie Jones's 6th movie and his first kind of lead. And then obviously next for me with Stath is his first lead in The Transporter. So they have a really interesting kind of trajectory coming along together at this point. And we know who ultimately kind of takes the win. Yeah. It doesn't become close fairly soon. They go off in divergent paths.
Yeah. There's only so much mileage Vinnie Jones can get out of playing the same character. I know Statham's done different things, but I don't know. I love his martial arts, Jason Statham. Anyway, I love all that. I love the Expendables, the scene on the motorbike when he goes to the basketball pitch. I love that. When he beats up his ex's boyfriend because he slapped her about. I fucking love that scene so much, Jax. So, yeah, there's a lot of his films are brilliant. I think the one I did enjoy once coming back, I think it's come back from Vegas in 2013 on a plane, was the one where Dominic Purcell's in it out Prison Break, and it's set like early 80s. I think Clive Owen's a baddie in it. And Dominic Purcell's got long hair with Statham. I'm sure it's a bit, I don't know if Robert De Niro's in it. It's a weird film set in like a different time because Dominic Purcell's Australian, but he's got some proper dodgy Carl Urban type Cockney accent. So, but that's not a bad film. That I'm sure that's who's in it, Clive Owen and Jason Statham. And that.
I was just looking at my list because I get these two mixed up. I think it's Killer Elite.
That might be it.
It's got Clive Owen. Clive Owen's got like a really rad moustache in it.
Yes.
Because he was in one called Blitz, and they were both around the same sort of time. But I think Blitz is UK based, whereas Killer Elite is a bit more international, isn't it? And I think you're right; it has got De Niro in it as well.
Yeah, I think memory serves me there. So I'm a bit of a Statham fan. I'm not as big a fan as Glyn Davies. I think has Glyn been on yet?
No, but he's got a few lined up.
He's a huge Statham fan, so I'm interested in what his take will be.
As soon as obviously we touched base through VHS. But as soon as we started talking about this project that only just launched, he was like, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one. So yeah, he's got quite a few good ones lined up.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be really interesting. Just completely different movie. He's done some. I mean, Dave loves that one with Burt Reynolds, and he said, "I've got to watch it because I love Burt Reynolds." I'm not watching that sword and sorcery nonsense. So.
In the name of the king, yeah,
that's not happening.
Dave's already taken one for the team, watching Turn It Up with me, so I might not force him to watch that one too.
He can't say no to any podcast. I'm sure he enjoyed it, Jax, but I love them because we are podcasting every single day at the moment because of Love Island, and we're podcasting our own stuff as well. So we literally 7 days a week, we're podcasting even 2 a day at weekends sometimes just to keep it ticking over. Then he'll go, I'm podcasting tonight. I'm podcasting like you are absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could talk and he can talk, but I couldn't do it like he does. He loves podcasting so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's good of you to say, to put him up on that bit of a pedestal. You're just as busy. I think it's really impressive how both of you do it. And then you put Mike in the mix, and then Tony and Spider Dan does loads too, guest appearances, and then it's mad how everyone fits all this into their lives. I just don't know.
No, I don't. I mean, I've got quite a different job where I'm finish early. So I do a lot of my podcasting around dinner, afternoon, evening. Me and Dave, Dave do it evening time after he's finished work. But if there's anything we can do or organise or editing, it's daytime for me. I can edit anything in the day from about 12 o'clock. So it works out quite well. But we've got such a lovely, like yourself, when I'm there, Jax, you listen to us, you've come on and you do your own thing, which is brilliant. Obviously, we've got Rhea on there as well, which I met Rhea a few weeks ago. Brilliant. Had a great chat with Mike, Megan, Rhea. It was really good. We had a good laugh, to be honest, talk about the Spider-Man, the bloody Kenobi show and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it was good. It was a good chat with good people. And we've got so many nice people. So I'm not just saying that. This is Dave's brainchild because it was just me and him talking movies. And he's so good at planning and stuff and putting stuff together that this is why this has grown into what it is. It's just a big family of really nice people.
And it came at such a brilliant time. It came at the start of lockdown, and Tony and I had met just online chatting on Twitter. And then suddenly, we're 2 years later and the world's been really strange for 2 years. But for me, my experience, this has grown and grown. I can't echo what you said enough about the group of people. Just everyone is so supportive. And as soon as you need something, everyone's leaping on it, offering time and knowledge and effort. And it's an amazing place to be.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Even if I can be a bellend sometimes, if I'm not being controversial,
Yeah.
there's no point even having me on, is there, Jack? So,
That's point of what that's what we love about you. Absolutely.
No, well, thank you for today, mate. I'm looking forward to it.
So how many Staths do you reckon you've seen? This is a question I like to ask everybody. He's had 41 movies so far. If you had to make a random guess.
Hang on a sec. Yeah, I could do a random guess, or it could be really, really cheeky and check his filmography.
Oh, do it, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say I even watched the Pink Panther with him in, which I've seen both Cranks, Death Race, The Bank Job.
Luckily, the Pink Panther, he's uncredited, so I don't have to cover that one.
Yeah, that's quite good. They're both Cranks, Expendables. The Mechanics, a cracking film, actually. I really enjoyed that. Killer Elite. I've just seen the Fast and Furious movies, all of them, even the Hobbs and Shaw ones. Went to cinema to watch Hobbs and Shaw. I'd say Wrath of Man, that's a great film. You know what? I would say, looking at this, I've seen about 25 of these movies.
Okay.
And that's not an exaggeration. That's just me totting it up as I'm checking it on Wikipedia. Honestly, I have. I've seen pretty much loads of them.
I'd say so far, like that's of the guests I've had on, that's you're sort of ahead, I would have said. Not that it's a competition in that way, but you're talking about Glyn and his fandom. Clearly, you are a big fan as well, having seen 2/3 at least of his output.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say to you off the top of my head, like Jason Statham's one of my favourite actors, but I do love his films. I just think there's just great. Wrath of Man was a great film that's on Prime recently, and that's another Guy Ritchie one, isn't there? So, and I know they've got Fast 10, Expendables 4, I've even seen Meg.
Oh, Meg's
you know what I mean?
Glorious.
And they're making the second one. So it's, I reckon Glyn's will outdo me. I reckon he's probably seen all of them, but I reckon at least 25 of them.
I think Glyn and I were fairly, so I think coming into this project, I hadn't seen 4. I'm now down to 2 because 2 of them were really early on. I think Glyn was fairly similar. I think he was about 3 or 4 is the only one that he hadn't seen 2. So yeah, he's definitely up there in his fandom.
Oh, good. I'll take third spot with that, Jack.
Yeah. 25 is highly impressive. For a person who you're not seeking out, do you know what I mean? Like you watch films because you think they look good, but you're not purposely watching them because he's starring in them. That's an impressive total.
Yes, cracking. I just like him. I like Scott Adkins movies. I got into a tangent last year, me and Dave, and I know some of them are terrible, but Debt Collector and Debt Collector 2, which are off on Netflix, I love them. Proper B-movie martial arts. They're like Jason Statham did in his early days, but just great throwaway 90-minute movies. He's
one that if I had the time, I'd like to dedicate a bit more to watching because, like you say, it's those you're not watching them for the narrative or for the acting quality. You're watching them for what he as a person brings to that role, and he's really into the choreography and the stunts, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, and I respect that. Like Tom Cruise, he does all his own stunts, so we can't hide the Scott Adkins film. You've got to do all your own stunts, basically. And I do really respect people who do that. As I've got older, you have so much respect for the stuntmen and the stunt women.
Absolutely. I mean, I can barely get out of a chair without creaking and moaning and. Ugh.
I feel you.
Yeah. So you've seen this once before, you reckon?
Yeah, once before, but I've got a feeling I've missed the start of it. Maybe about 10 minutes in, but having watched it now, Jack, it's not any different. This is closer than the Adam Sandler Longest Yard, even though that is an American football adaptation. This one I thought this was more beat for beat, the actual Burt Reynolds original. The Adam Sandler one's great, and we've got all the wrestlers in it, like Stone Cold and Kevin Nash in it. You've got Goldberg, you've got all these wrestlers are in it and that. But this felt like literally someone had just gone, we're just going to completely copy it. Because, it's pretty quick the way he gets into it. But yeah, I was quite shocked, to be honest. I couldn't remember a lot of it. And then it starts and I'm like, well, even some of the jokes are exactly the same.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? I think I'm like you. I'd watched this once, maybe like quite soon after release, and I've not gone back to it, which for me sometimes is quite telling. But I'd never seen The Longest Yard before. So, as you know, I watched it a couple of days before I rewatched this because I wanted to get a flavour of how close it was to that original one. Yeah, I was surprised. Other than the section in The Longest Yard when they're out kind of being they're out digging, aren't they?
Gang.
They're chain, that's the word, thank you. Yeah,
chain gang, yeah.
Other than that section, it's pretty much, as you said, beat for beat. But what that does is it cuts out about half an hour of the runtime, doesn't it?
Yes, because even the joke with the policeman, which is the short guy who's Burt Reynolds' friends, who's in Hooper, spoke in about Cannonball Run. He's in loads of Burt Reynolds films. He's always like somebody, one of his friends. And he even says, "Oh, you look at a short policeman or something." Now, in the original Youngest Yard, it's got a fantastic car chase. He's drunk, and he's not a very nice person, Paul Crewe, in the first one, because he does sort of throw his missus about and nicks her Maserati, even though it's a Citroen Maserati, because it says Citroen on the gear stick and that, which is weird. And the front thing, even though it's a Maserati engine, I think, but it's a really weird car he's driving for Burt Reynolds, and the chase is good. But this is just Vinnie Jones driving down the street and then just pulls up outside a pub on a pavement, doesn't he? You know, but it's beat for beat what Paul Crewe, who's Burt Reynolds' character, actually gets done for.
I have to say, I felt those, is it 74, 84? So it's like 27 years difference, I think, roughly, between The Longest Yard and Mean Machine. Yeah. I felt that difference. The opening is the key bit. Watching that Longest Yard opening was pretty tough. Or the original. The original or the Mean Machine. Yeah,
it's long, isn't it?
As you said, and it's just the treatment of that character. I mean, the misogyny and the attitude is pretty hard to sit through and to think. And it's okay in film sometimes, but I think probably because I'm watching it with that mindset of this is probably just accepted back then, and people were probably thinking, "Oh, what a cool guy." That's when it makes it tough to watch, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you're right, because there's no way you would have a hero in a movie slapping a woman about at all and throwing her on the floor and everything. You know, even if he is pissed, like he shouldn't. That's not what a hero is about these days, which he shouldn't be anyway. You should never have that. Someone like that is never redeemable. But in that movie, Burt Reynolds he's like the old American hero who threw an American football game. So it's interesting that they don't touch on that in this, and they only touch on the bit where he has a dalliance with a young lady, shall we say? Because in the original one, it's a Dolly Parton lookalike that Burt Reynolds gets a bit frisky with, shall we say? Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because films that I would equate this kind of character to maybe like, The Last Boy Scout, where Bruce Willis's character, he's, I wouldn't say he's misogynistic as such, but he's really like on the edge of darkness.
Yes,
but still his respect for kind of his wife and things that therefore he can be redeemable, can't he? But yeah, as you said, this character, is it Paul Crewe, is just at the start a horrible guy. But I guess to an extent, if they'd followed that through line from start to finish, that would be okay. If he was a horrible guy, but as you said, because he's meant to be this all-conquering hero at the end, it makes that the start of it sit a bit uneasy.
Yeah, it does. You're right, and I think 2001, I say 26, 27 years later, when this came out, the world had evolved then, let alone the 20 years that have preceded it now, sort of thing. So we are in a completely different space. There's no way he would even go near that sort of character. So it's interesting. And I think you're right. The original one is quite slow, but because I've seen it so many times, it's relatable. And now we've never done it on the VHS Strikes Back, and it's there. And I've got a pick coming up in about 6-7 weeks, and I keep toying with it. But I know it's another Burt Reynolds movie. We've done Cannonball Run and all that, but I don't want Dave to go near it, if I'm being honest. You know me, I love rinsing movies. He rinsed Smoking the Bandit. I just don't know whether he's even going to, you know what I mean? So like, we had this thing where we surprise each other and send the trailer for what we want to actually review. But this is one that I'm not sure I want him to touch, if I'm being honest.
No, I totally get that, because as a Patreon, when my picks come around, I'm pretty careful about what I'm going to pick, because
yes,
if it's to stitch you up, that's fine. But if it's one that I feel precious about, like you say, I'm worried about what might come out and how it might affect my own viewing of the film. So I totally get that. But you're right to pick out the car chase. They do a good job of modernizing it, and I actually really like the repetition of the scene in Vinnie Jones's Mean Machine in the bar. I think they play that off really well. And, I'm totally convinced that Vinnie Jones is an aggressive, potentially alcoholic, sort of rough and tumble guy, because, not a million miles from the truth, if rumors are to be believed. But the car chase is slow and boring. It's like watching Boba Fett again or something, isn't it?
Well, this is a bad. Yeah, you're right. Boba Fett. The scooters. Yeah, that was a really intense chase. But it reminds me a little bit. This is bad. this is a bad pick, this one, Jack, so forgive me. But when O.J. Simpson was getting chased and he was going about 20 miles an hour, I know he wasn't driving it. It was supposed to be his friend and he was sat in the back, but that was the shittiest car chase ever, but they just couldn't stop him. And it wasn't as bad as that, but he's not levering it. He's just sort of, you can even see the way it's cut, that there's a scene where obviously normal traffic is told to wait behind while they shoot this bit, and he's in his, what's he called in this? What's his name?
Danny Meehan, isn't it?
Danny Meehan, sorry. Danny's there just like, levered sort of thing. So yeah, I think you're right. And I also think it gets us into the prison then, doesn't it? Because we get the sort of sentencing and everything. So it's not as bad as the original one. But I do think because I'm waiting for them beats and there's a couple of jokes that are exactly the same, and then them like, oh, hang on a minute, we've really rushed this story. But I think on reflection, watching it, and I'm not trying to jump to the end, there is a reason. I think it runs at 95 minutes, and I think it's perfect, to be honest.
Yeah, I think any longer I would have really struggled. I think I felt the runtime of Me Machine, Vinnie Jones more than I felt the runtime of Burt Reynolds, Younger Shard, even though that's longer.
Yeah, it's weird, that, isn't it? It's weird how you come to that conclusion, because I think we've got a movie coming up, right? And I'm not going to ruin it for you, Jax, on the Patreon. I've never heard of it, and neither has Dave. And it's unbelievable, this movie. We played the trailer a few weeks ahead because we're recording like well ahead at the moment. And oh my God, you are in for a treat, mate. It is ridiculous.
Okay. Is it a Patreon pick?
It is indeed. It is unbelievable.
Somebody's got another special one to go alongside. Was it Hard Ticket to Hawaii? And
they were the ones. I think that was John, that.
There's some beauties that have come out of those picks. What was the one about the secret agent?
For Your Height Only.
For Your Height Only, yeah. Some of those were just brilliant.
Well, in fact, we're that far ahead now. And this isn't like, it's just because we've got so much on. Wait till you see my next pick.
All right. I like the little teasers. It's great.
Sorry, I shouldn't be cross-promoting so much.
No,
but yeah,
that's exactly what you should be doing.
In connection, but yeah, it's you're going to love these, mate. You are going to love them. And also hate me, and whoever picked this other movie is unbelievable.
You picked out the editing there, which I think is interesting, because I thought the editing of this movie was atrocious.
Yes.
And that's part of the pacing problem. Like, we were saying how it feels long. The editing is really poor. They're using Star Wars wipes for some reason for a lot of the scenes. I didn't think it felt like a series of like scenes rather than a flowing movie. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, you know what? Obviously, Snatch. I don't think Snatch was out around this time, wasn't it? And Lock, Stock was mid-90s, wasn't it? Lock, Stock, was it around about 98, 97, 98?
I think Lock, Stock was 97, 98, and then Snatch was 2001.
Yeah, because Lenny McLean passed away as they were promoting this movie. The bare knuckle, the guy who was a maniac in real life. But no, I think you're right. It feels like Guy Ritchie's got his hands all over it, and he obviously hasn't, but he's trying to be too clever with what they were doing, and they're trying to, it almost feels like a storyboard, the way each scene moves. I completely agree with you. There's something disjointed about it, because it just doesn't flow. It doesn't, like when you watch a movie, even if it's a bad movie, if it's edited right, you can go with the story, can't you? Even if it takes you an hour to get invested in characters, and you go, yeah, with this, I'm invested in the characters because I know that ultimately the outcome, because it's a remake and nothing really is going to change. But I just think the things that are supposed to be funny don't work. Like Danny Dyer is supposed to be this like sort of lad who's got learning difficulties, or maybe even he's autistic, you would say now. Like he could be on the spectrum, and they play that for laughs. That's not funny. Even the monk with Jason Statham, he does the scenes that the guy he's a Native American, the guy with the bald head who's in the Burt Reynolds films. He's in like Hooper and Cannonball Run. He's one of his friends. He's the guy who's the monk as such. You don't call the monk in the original one, is he? But he's the martial arts expert, and he breaks Richie Keel's nose, jaws at James Bond. And you get that the guy whose nose he breaks is the guy who he's in Snatch. He's in other movies of Guy Ritchie's and stuff as well.
Yeah, so he's Gorgeous George, isn't he? In Snatch.
Gorgeous George, yeah. He's one in Snatch who he fights. He's a rugby player. ex-rugby player who Brad Pitt knocks out. He has the same people in and around them. There's all the same characters that you would have in a. I suppose it's a bit like, in some respects, like now, like I follow Craig Fairbrass, who does the what they call the Essex Boys. Now he must be 60 and he looks good, but he's 60 playing like Pat Tate, who's 30. But you've got the same crew in every single movie. They're not at the level of some of these guys are even now. Like they're not at the level of Statham and all that, because they were still actors, they were renowned actors and stuff like that. Even Vinnie Jones had some respect at this point in his career. But it just feels like they've just dragged every single Cockney actor or Cockney, somebody can do a Cockney accent. Let's bring you in. Let's bring you in, you know. So it just feels, I agree, it feels very disjointed. And when these jokes, none of it hits. There's not one bit where I sort of smirked or laughed.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm glad you said that. It feels like, and I can't watch these type of shows, it feels like a sketch show.
Yes.
Where it's people, you know, it's Mitchell and Webb, who I find really hilarious in Peep Show or doing their own things on panel shows. But when they did their sketch show, it was terrible. And I just can't watch those like scene by scene moments because I can't get on board with like I don't know what it is, you know, like that idea of like comedy is all in the timing, right? And I feel like sometimes with sketch shows, because they're forcing it into a short period of time, it doesn't work. And I completely agree with you here. Like Bob and Bob, who are commentating at the match at the end, they're not funny. And all the little characters, as you said, that have come in from all the other Guy Ritchie things, who are meant to be kind of cartoonish, clownish, caricature type people to get the laughs, they don't work either.
Yeah.
Tonally, it's really problematic, because then you get these moments where you've got is it Doc, the old guy?
Yes.
Telling his like story of how he ended up in prison for life. And it was that he threw a grenade in a house and blew up a mum and a baby. Well, that doesn't fit with the weird slapstick stuff we had 2 minutes ago.
What a guy, you know what I mean? Because it's strange in this one, because in the original one, his right-hand man, Paul Crewe, and that's the thing, Danny's called Danny the Mean Machine Meehan. But in the original one, it's Paul Wrecking Crew. That's what they call him, the Paul Wrecking Crew. He's like the all superstar quarterback. And how they got to Mean Machine, I don't know. That's just what they call the team in the movie and stuff. And the longest yard, I don't know. That's definitely an American football reference. But with this, his right-hand man gets killed. And the right-hand man in the original one is Michael J. Fox's dad in Teen Wolf. That's who gets killed.
Yeah, I didn't put that together, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the guy who gets, I can't remember his bloody name, but that's the guy who ultimately, he's like the fixer. He can get everything. Burt Reynolds gets his leg over with the receptionist if he gets information about the warden's team and finds out the injury so they could target him. And there's all that going on. But the old guy gets killed, and he's out of I think he was out of Monty Python. I'm sure he's out of Folly Towers. I'm sure he's the Irish builder, O'Rourke or something in it. But he's the one who takes one for the team. So that's slightly different. But ultimately, someone does get killed in Danny's cell, which was Paul Crewe's cell in the original. So it's interesting because in the Adam Sandler remake, there's thing as well, isn't it? Burt Reynolds is the old aging American footballer who's in the prison, but they don't really have that in here. They don't have an aging footballer who comes on who could play a bit of footy in that. So there is a few things slightly different, but I just think you're right. I think because it almost feels like you're watching, like I suppose in some respects, a great spotlight, Jack. It's a bit like the Fast Show. Like years ago, I used to love the sketch shows. I was really into the Fast Show and stuff like that. You know, and even the Harry Enfield stuff when he used to be funny. There was a time that Harry Enfield was going with Paul Whitehouse, wasn't he? You know, smashing nice, you know, he'd have these little setups. Monty Python. But it's just not it. It's just, there's some really tonal, serious stuff going on, horrible stuff. And then, like you say, and then you get this like, let's have a joke. You know, Jason Statham breaks someone's nose. Well, in the original one, Paul Crewe gets Richie Keel's nose, bends it back and says, you got to apologise. And he makes the guy, or the monk, or whatever he's called in the original one, actually apologise. You know, so it's weird. There's unusual tonal things. And I think my biggest problem in this whole movie, Jax, is how the fuck they portray Vinnie Jones can actually play football. He's one of the worst professional footballers you've ever seen in your life. But they make him out. When he's doing them kick-ups, he is struggling. I could do what he did there. And I'm not a great footballer.
Yeah. When he's like proving to the inmates how good he is.
Yeah, and he does the kick-ups, and you can see when he puts it on his left foot, he nearly hits one of them. I kept thinking, watching, going, how many times has it took you to get that? And then he puts the ball behind. He does it all in one take. He does that in one shot. But obviously, I don't know how many takes it was. But yeah, it was pissing myself laughing because he's running around like he's fucking Gaza or Maradona or something. And he was one of the worst hatchet men footballers in life. So that, for me, is the best bit about this movie, because they try and make him look like a strong footballer when he was absolutely terrible.
It's true. I'd forgotten about that bit with the keepers, because I did think he manages about 4 or something, doesn't he? And then it's like, oh, look how good I am. Because I think in contrast to that, I mean, it's probably more than I can do nowadays, to be fair. But in contrast to that, the bit in the cell when they're riffing on like The Great Escape, he's given a baseball, and he's banging it on the wall, and then he starts to. I thought there, he does a couple of decent little skills.
He does. Yeah, I'm doing it now as you say it, on the back of his head and all that. Yeah, you're right. It's Hilts, isn't it? Steve McQueen's one of my favourite films. Great Escape, or in my top 50 favourite 20 movies of all time, that's a great movie. But no, you're right, actually, there, Jax. I think it's bizarre that they picked him. They had to as a vehicle, but I think they'd have got away with it if they'd done an American football remake with him, because it doesn't matter that he's English. They could have played on all that, or they could have put in a crappy American accent. That might be more believable.
That was one of the key questions I was going to ask you, actually, about how you felt it translated to the English football game, to soccer, as they would call it, compared to American football.
I think, but obviously, I'm going to be biased to the original, even though I love football. The American football I don't really watch. I know I understand the rules because I used to play a lot of John Madden on the Mega Drive years ago. So I used to have a HB toss left and Hail Marys and all. So I used to know how to play that game. And that's how I learned what American football's about, fourth down and all. So I do understand American football. But I think with this, what's weird is they're playing it like it's from the 70s, where the warden's been the guy who runs the jail is some gangster who some London Cockney gangster is supposed to be like one of the Cray brothers, and none of that goes on now. You have your gangs, without a doubt. You have your gangs, and I'm sure there is connections where the warden will say to people, because I know people who've been in jail, and it's like, yeah, there is people who run jails, no matter what you say, and it's more you leave me alone, I leave you alone. I'm not saying that, but the way this is played, it's like it's something from the 60s and 70s where anybody can be got at. I'm not saying you can't do stuff now, because we see people with phones and videoing people, which is awful in jail, but I just don't, it doesn't fit with 2001 that everybody in the prison is bent and everyone wants to take a backhander. All the prison staff are horrible. Every one of them. What they portray it as when they're training, they portray it as if it's the Nazis or the stormtroopers, like the Emperor, the dark side.
It does have that Escape to Victory vibes, doesn't it?
Yeah, Escape to Victory vibe. Exactly the same. You're right. But you know what? That's another great film. We Sliced Alone, great film. But again, the Nazis be sort of like the resistance sort of thing. And so like Star Wars, even when they're training, they've got the Umbro kits on and it's all their regiment, like the army. But then Vinnie Jones is doing like the dancing to sort of reggae music as they're supposed to be training and punching punch bags. And it's very tonally, it's like an us and them. But really, in real life, the wardens and the prison guards are the good guys in normal life. But in this movie, you feel sorry for these people who, like you said, he killed a woman and a kid. These people are not nice. This monk's killed 30 odd people, the same, but they redeem him because he goes, he nets, he does a few Zico runs. It's weird.
You picked out the music. I thought, again, the music cues were really weird. It was like kind of Benny Hill style, like wah, 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 and all this kind of horrible stuff. But it was again, I think maybe in the editing they realised, oh shit, this is not funny. What can we do? And maybe that's where they chucked him in. But I didn't mind so much the soundtrack, but they were just weird. Like you said, when Danny dies on screen, there's he gets like a little kind of sketchy comedy like accompaniment with him, and like all of that just didn't work either.
No, and it's weird because and he's not wrong with that. I'm sure if I get to that stage, I will probably get my hair done, but my missus watches EastEnders. I've just seen Danny die, and he's definitely had his hair done, and that since these movies, and he's filled out a bit. I mean, obviously he's more respected, but in this one, he's a bumbling idiot. I know you got to start somewhere, and he went and did a lot of gangster movies and stuff like that. Some crackers he's done, but he just doesn't really fit. I think, you know, it doesn't fit in the movie. It doesn't work. I think a lot of the prisoners don't work. You know, one minute you've got the old guy who's running the jail, and who's like horrible and wants a piece of everything, and he's in with the warden and they're trying to take backhanders and all this stuff. And then the next minute, he puts on Sykes in it, John Fortune. He puts on a Ron Atkinson sheepskin coat and turns into fucking Mike Bassett, and he's like all for everyone. Whereas he doesn't like the prisoners and he doesn't like the wardens or the guards. So he just literally gets on the subs pen. All he needs is a big cigar in his mouth, and he's a proper old school manager. So he has a really strange story. He has them all in his cell. They're high-fiving him and everything. I know he gets give him a bit shit, said, I'm the owner of the club or something. Which is like, you're in jail, mate, you're not. And that's like his thing, but it's weird. That some of the characters and the way they spin it halfway through the movie just is so stupid.
I think what's interesting is that you, as you said, like it sticks the narrative of The Longest Yard, of the Mean Machine, the Burt Reynolds one, really closely. But then what it tries to do is bring in all these cultural touches, which we have here. So Guy Ritchie, Escape to Victory, and like that kind of, as you said, like Mike Bassett. I don't know who that was based on originally, but that kind of like
Brilliant.
Like sheepskin coat. It brings all those in, doesn't it? Which it doesn't. And again, we're coming back to tone. It means it doesn't quite tonally all fit together, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't.
So I think probably the worst, most egregious use of music has to be when the teams come out onto the pitch. I don't know if you picked up on this yourself.
Yes.
But it was riffing on a very famous other
Robbie
sporting
Williams.
movie.
Oh no, not Robbie.
Oh no, there is
That's at the
Robbie
end,
Williams.
that's at the end,
course.
isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
there's
yeah.
his song "Mean Machine," isn't there? But yeah, when the players come out onto the pitch, as they do, they're accompanied by music. I don't know if I've ever revealed this on any podcast. I don't know if anyone within the group know, but I support Tottenham.
All right, yeah.
I'm not a big follower anymore, really. Like I keep up with the results and stuff, but my passion has gone out the game, probably because I'm a Tottenham fan. And they obviously come out to Duel of the Fates, which is a real big, so the teams trot out on the pitch here. And did you pick up on what it sounded like?
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe
Arsenal, was it?
No. Well, to my ears, it sounded like a big knockoff Rocky theme.
Oh no, it was Rocky. It wasn't Rocky. Sorry. I'm thinking of like you're going to say West Ham, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles, or some sort of Arsenal. No, you're right. It is. But it's sort of like
They do that thing where they change it just slightly enough so they don't have to pay for the copyright.
Yeah, it's like they've gone. I always laugh about this. It's like I never forget years ago buying a Beatles DVD from Pound Stretch near me, White City, Manchester, near United's ground. And I come home dead excited and I said to Sam, like I was like 19 when we first got together at 98, and I was like, oh, just got this Beatles CD. It was £2. I put it on and it was a fucking like Bow Bell's fucking Beatles, the best of Beatles. But what they did was they had the Beatles logo, and then underneath in little writing was, songs by the Beatles, Blow Bell fucking orchestra, some bullshit. And I put it on, I was like, what the fuck is this? So it's almost, but this is just a rip-off, isn't it? Yeah. You're right. It's a really bad, I don't know how they got away with it.
Yeah, I don't know how different you have to make songs in order to not pay the copyright. This must be right on the cusp of getting away with it.
It's class. It is brilliant, because I just thought, why don't you just pay for the proper song?
I mean, because it fits the underdog theme of the, although if I was Stallone, I'm not sure I'd want my Rocky theme attached to the Mean Machine.
Not to this. He means your mate's Jason Statham now, but that's it.
Yeah.
He wasn't at the time.
No. All right, Jason Statham, let's get to it. What do you think of him in this movie? Perfect segue.
Oh, he's literally played it by numbers, isn't he? He looks great. He comes out fully like, he literally straight jacketed up and he's doing a bit of martial arts. That guy's like, he's killed 30 people. And Vinnie Jones saw Danny goes, maybe I should learn karate. And he went, oh, that was before karate. And so he just, he's a bit weird because, like I said, I mentioned the broken nose thing. And then he only changes his mind when they say, we're playing the guards. But I've got to say, Jackson, and now they do fantastic tattoos now. Like, you wouldn't even think they were fake. tattoos are terrible. It looks like someone's drew them on with crayon, don't they? They're so dark and black. It's like he's just stepped out of the tattoo parlor. You know, I'm covered in tattoos now, so it's like, I don't know if you are, but they don't last that colour. I had one done a few months ago. I've got an American sleeve that I'm having done. I'm nearly had it done, and that a couple of months ago looked great when I had it done, but it still fades. Not horrendous, but you know, it's not like so. Them tattoos is just nonsense. But I think when he's in net and he's just taking everybody on, and some of the dives, because obviously he's an Olympic diver, wasn't he? He went to the 1988 Olympic
Commonwealth Games.
Games, 1990 Commonwealth Games. And he's an amazing diver. Like, he's so athletic, and obviously the martial arts stuff and everything, he can do all them stunts. He's so good. And some of the dives just defy logic. You can clearly see he's on some sort of trampoline the way he was doing them moves. It was just stupid. And he's a real peripheral figure, other than him being the absolute prison psycho. He only gets about 10 minutes airtime in the whole movie. And he was, like you say, he was a big film star at this point, really. He was cutting his chops, but he wasn't chopped liver. He wasn't like, he shouldn't have had top billing with Vinnie Jones, because he definitely should.
I'm guessing this was probably a favour, wasn't it? It was like,
I was going to say, yeah.
Like, do you fancy popping in and doing this as my mate? Because I didn't know until starting this project that they went to school together.
Oh, did they? Statham and Vinnie Jones?
Because obviously having to go down the backstory, and we on several podcasts, several episodes, we've been talking about the Stath's accent and where that's come from. They were at school together, so they've known each other for a very long time. So it's probably jump in, do this role, mates rates, and just have a bit of a laugh, I guess.
I didn't realise that. I honestly didn't realise they are they the same age then?
I guess they must be fair, either exactly the same or similar enough. Yeah,
2 years. It's 2 years. Vinnie Jones is 2 years older. He's 57, and Statham's 55 this year. So God, that's unbelievable. I never knew that. Never knew that.
I think, I mean, you're right. 10 minutes max. But I think there's pros and cons to this for him, isn't there? Like, it's the first time, I don't, like in the last episode, as you said, you listened with Blake and I started this new tally on behalf of Mike.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we get, as you said, we get Stath stripping down, and we get Stath skins, we get that six pack and the stacked body, which he's somehow managed to maintain from then till now.
Yeah.
No middle-aged spread for the Stath. And I think he is the highlight of the match. As you said, the bits that he's doing when he's doing all the tricks, they're pretty funny. They sort of got a wry smile out of me. His facial expressions are crazy. He doesn't do anything to this extent anymore. Like, now he's kind of obviously quite a straight, stoic character in most of his films, but here he's kind of leaning into the comedy and putting these really like wacky faces. But I think for me, it was the imaginary black and white sequences which stood out as being the highlight of the section. Yeah,
I agree. And I tell you what, he's not a bad footballer, Jax, as well. He's Robbie G, plays Trojan. He's in Snatch and that, and Desmond's and that. He's a hell of a fucking player. You know what I mean? He is a good footballer. He's on that wing there, and he's absolutely taking names on there. He looks really good, to be fair, really good. So every time they give him the ball, he's away, and he looks like he's played at a good level, to be fair. Because I know in the cast, Vinnie Jones got a couple of his mates, didn't he, to play on both teams as well, so make it look authentic when there was some of the longer shots, wider shots sort of thing. There was a couple of them, which were his friends who played on the guards team, and there was a couple on the prisoners teams, which it had to be. You had to have some level there. A bit like, say, like Escape to Victory, when they had like the Bobby Moore, didn't they? Russell Osborne, there was all sorts. I think Mike Summerby was on there. There was a load of players on that, because he had to make it look like a proper football team, which they were. They were professional footballers, some of them, when they filmed that. Whereas in this, the actors are terrible. I mean, the guy, he's the guy out of The Phantom Menace who plays, is it Sebulba, the one who owns Annie, you know, and does the voice. He's the guy, he's the comedian, isn't he?
Omid Jalli.
Omid Jalli, yeah. He's Raj in this, but he's the one who's Sebulba, who does the voice in The Phantom Menace, and he's there, and he chins one of the guards and punches him. And so there's just, some of the fouls are ridiculous, but I think you're right with Statham. It's just who he is. And to be honest, I must admit, they give the guards a better game than Paul Crewe does in the original one, because Burt Reynolds' side are never close to the guards until the end. They're always a touchdown and a field goal away, and then when he is supposed to throw the game, Paul Crewe, which obviously Danny is supposed to do in this one. But the prisoners of it, the bar twice, Danny Dyer should have scored. There's a few of them should have scored. It's only at the end when the monk, Jason Statham's character, so we'll bring it around to that, fucks up because he decides to go on a Maradona run and gets tackled, doesn't he? Make it 2-1, and then they score pretty quick, and it's 2-2, and then all of a sudden, the prison guards have got no defence from nowhere. They've decided to just leave it, and Vinnie Jones does a little flick, and he's away, and nobody's in the earshot. The continuity is unbelievable because from nowhere, Danny Dyer's character appears. Billy the Limpet appears from nowhere and hits an absolute Bobby Charlton rocket shot in the empty net from nowhere. And he couldn't hit a barn over banjo, that lad, for the other film, but he pulls it out of the bag. So that is nonsense. You would not have the time to put your foot on the ball, stand around, look at everyone in the crowd.
He's there for about 30 seconds in film time. It's forever.
Yeah. He's looking at the warden. I know we can see the warden from like 150 yards away. I don't know. He signals everyone out who he's going to get back, and then they score. So, but yeah, it's weird. It's a weird film that I sort of enjoyed it because it felt very 90s Brit movie, and it's not really out of place from the Snatch and the Lock Stock films, but it's definitely the B movie poor man's film compared to, but you could have that in one of them cheapo free DVDs for a tenner, and they're all on the same thing, and it's got all of them together, and you could have all of them, and they always get one dodgy movie they put on there, which is crap, don't they? So,
well, as you say, you'll get like Lock, Stock and Snatch. Oh, it's worth it for that. Oh, Mean Machine's in there. Oh well, I don't have to watch that one.
I'll watch that first and save the best to last.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the football scenes is the highlight of the movie, and I agree with you. Like, there's some talented players on there. Like Robbie G is good. He reminds me of that sort of player that would piss you off when you were playing though with your mates.
Never passes it.
Fucking know you're good. Yeah, pass it, mate.
Yeah, pass it. Yes, that's true. That.
But and the stuff that I agree is absolutely ridiculous. But I did like that element of the fact that actually the prisoners would have lamped them if it wasn't for Danny Meehan's character, as you said, like starting to throw the game, coming to the sideline because he's worried about being blamed, isn't he, for the for the murder of Doc, for that character, or being accessory to murder. Yeah, and that's
true.
Sorry, I was just going to. That's the part I felt really didn't work, unfortunately, here, because in American football it's rolling, right? People are coming on and off all the time, offense, defense. Whereas here, if a footballer comes off, they come off because they can't come back on. And you have like what feels like a long portion of this second half. I'm not sure how long it's supposed to be. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, where Danny's on the sideline and they're not doing a sub.
Yeah. And they've already lost a man. They've got 9 men, haven't they?
So they've gone down to 9 men, and they just, you just would do a sub. So that part just really, unfortunately, conceptually, because it's soccer football, doesn't work. Yeah,
I agree with that. That's very Hollywood. That's like getting someone who's never played football and saying, how would you, and I'm calling it football, not soccer, Jack. I know we've got soccer, they would have called it in Hollywood or whatever. Well, if it got a premiere over there. But it's football. That is a Hollywood type ending into, because I think as well, and you're right, actually, with all this, completely right, it's very bizarre that, so I've got a daft story. What are you, when I watch for movies like this, right? So how old are you, Jax? If you don't mind me asking.
No, 42.
I'm 43, so we're the same age pretty much. And I remember World Cup 94, right? We went, it was in America. We went to Spain and we went to Benidorm for a month because we used to literally live out there. We were always going for like 2 or 3 months of the year, and the school used to go mad. We'd go over like Christmas. So the 2 weeks over Christmas, then my dad would just have us there for the 2 weeks. We'd have Christmas Day there, then when we shouldn't have been, and we'd get right bollocking from the wag woman. And you do it for Easter. We'd go away for 2 weeks, but we'd go away for a month. And then you'd get letters for the door. And we were always doing. But anyway, the World Cup 94 was on in the June of 94. And we were in Benidorm. And I was like sick of going because we used to go all the time. My mum and dad are travel agents for around 94, 95. They have been ever since. And they do Benidorm. That's all they concentrate on, Benidorm, Alicante and everything. So we were sick of this. But we did about 20 times. I'm like, I'm not going around the field. I'm not doing this. I was being a proper rebellious, what was I, 15? I was 15 at that point. World Cup was on. I watched every single game of the World Cup pretty much while we were on holiday. Every day I went in this hotel. They had a telly ready. We even stayed in this hotel. We had a telly ready for me. All the qualifying games all day. I just sat there watching all these games. And one of the interviews, this is where I'm going with this, Jack, is he interviewed Charlie Sheen. And just before it, because you got, I think with Diana Ross, where she kicks the ball and the nets fall and all this stuff, and she like did the opening ceremony. And they say to Charlie Sheen, so Charlie, American, hey Charlie, who do you think's going to win the World Cup? And he goes, hey man, I want Liverpool all the way. And me and my two brothers, me and my two brothers. I mean, I've got three brothers, but he wasn't. But he was only a kid. He was literally just born in '94. But me and my other two brothers always say that line, Charlie Sheen. You know, I say in the other podcast, we always have lines we say. My brother Adam, and we were playing on FIFA before, when me and him and my other brother Javier, we're all playing FIFA before this. And he'll always randomly just go, I want Liverpool all the way. And you could hear the Eurosport like guy who's interviewing him just go, I don't even know what to say. I don't know whether I should correct him or just fob it off. And I have looked for that interview for years. We were looking the other week for it, trying to find it to send it each other, and we just cannot find it. It's ridiculous. But it feels like that. It feels like someone from America, Hollywood, has got a cut of this. And it might have been better than this. It might not have been so comedic. I don't know. I know there's a lot of English influence with the production and everything, but it just feels like someone's got hold of it and gone, no, it's not very glamorous, that. I don't like it. It feels as if the movie would have been more edgy, but they've had to throw slapstick in. A bit like Judge Dredd with Stallone, where they made it into a PG thing, but he wanted it to be an R-rated, and they cut it completely down, and all the jokes were awful and hammy and everything. But apparently there's a really good film. That's what they all say, don't they? You know, not having a Snyder cut with this one anyway. But yeah, it does feel like someone's got a hold of it who shouldn't have done, and they've completely toned it down. No,
I think that's a totally fair, a good shout, because we keep going back to the same thing. The tone is all over the place, and it feels like perhaps in the script it was, as you said, more Guy Ritchie, more Snatch, more Lock, Stock, more gritty. And then somewhere down the line, they thought we better add in this little bit of humour for this audience and that audience. And I think that's probably true.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not saying I'm correct, but as we're talking about it, we're thrashing it out, I think you're right. I think it's just a strange movie. And you can see why. I mean, was it at like 34% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it is? It's not received well at all. It's really poorly received. Like the critically, it wasn't. It was a bomb, basically. It never made any money, to be honest. So it was not the greatest movie. Not
compared to, we've seen some of the Statham movies before this point. Snatch particularly made a lot of money compared to its budget. I mean, it made 7 million from a 2.5 million budget. So it did all right. It made its money back, but it was hardly set the world on fire, did it?
No, and one of the things that makes me laugh is one of the main prison warden who gets the one in the balls, which in the original one, they take him out the game. And in the Adam Sandler one, it's actually Stone Cold who takes two American footballs in the balls and gets taken off, because he's the racist prison guard in it. He's really awful in it, but he gets taken out by the ball. But in this is the main warden, and the main prison guy who gives him shit at the start is the guy who's the dad out of The Kingsman. Taron Egerton's mum, Samantha Womack, she's with him, which is nonsense. He's never with a guy like that. He's a proper Cockney gangster. But he's just gone on from this, and he's in every Cockney gangster movie. He's been in loads of films opposite Danny Dyer as just a bastard, and he's in loads of like the Rise of the Foot Soldier things and all. Like Kingsman, he's in that first one as her like horrible husband or whatever, his boyfriend. So he's just an horrible, horrible guy, which is good because he plays a baddie wherever he goes.
He's definitely, it's that guy. It's that guy from that thing, and you can't quite place it, but because he's done too many probably, that you can't quite figure out where he's come from.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's him. That's definitely him.
That's him from that thing.
Yeah.
All right, I cannot let you go. We cannot finish this without talking about the Stath's Scottish accent.
Well.
If it's meant, I think it's meant to be Scottish, and I'm not going to do my own impression because it's going to be terrible. But I'm not an actor.
No, and you know what? It's funny, because I never picked up on it. I just thought he was English, and then there's a bit later on, like I think it's when they're actually in the match, and he says something, and I was like, oh, that sounds like an American accent. What where's, and I just thought it was because he was in like an action bit and he's just said something, do you know what I mean? But he's a terrible actor. I didn't even know he was Scottish. See, you just said it. I did not even know that.
I mean, fairly soon, somebody's about to tell him, look, just be like Michael Caine. Don't bother. Just be yourself. Because he's tried the American in the one. And if memory serves, he tries American again in the Transporter quite badly.
Yeah.
And he's tried Scottish here. And then fairly soon after this, he's now just Jason Statham, Cockney.
Yeah, don't mess with it, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's absolutely awful. And I'm going to have to go back and just watch his bits now because I didn't realise he was trying to be Scottish because that is terrible. There's no way that even sounds Scottish.
No. I mean, when I was watching it, I would obviously tweeted out that I was. And so Max was messaging me saying about the Scottish accent and was getting some good digs in whilst I was watching. My phone was pipping away with his phonetically written out attempts at stay Scottishness.
That is brilliant. I didn't even know. I did not even. Oh, that's blew my mind. That now, Jax. That's absolutely made my night.
Anything else you think we should comment on before we wrap up?
I've really enjoyed this actually. Just a cool chat about a really silly movie. I would know. This is very reminiscent of the movies we do on the other podcast because I wouldn't have probably picked this, but with it being Statham and with it being part of your show, it has to be done, mate. And I've fully enjoyed you having me on. Definitely. We've got to do this again, 100%.
Oh, yeah. You're coming back because, you know, like you say, some of those action ones which are right up your street, I think we need to get done. I think definitely. I need to ask you, though, and I think I know the answer to this, but is The Mean Machine the longest yard? Or is Mean Machine the one to watch if you had to pick?
It's got to be the OG, without a doubt. I'd even say, even though this replicates the Mean Machine we're talking about reviewing with Vinny, replicates the original, I think, better than the Adam Sandler one. The Adam Sandler movie is actually quite good. A good movie, it's watchable. Whereas this, in parts, is goddamn terrible. And I agree, the cutting thing with the widescreen, I don't know what they're trying to go for. It's like a comic book Grange Hill thing. I don't know what they're going for. It's really bizarre what they tried with this, but it just doesn't hit for me at all.
I love that. Grange Hill, what a great reference. It is. All right, before I get your final review, I'm just going to delve into a couple of ones that I found on Letterboxd, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So this is from a guy called Lou Shoemaker, and he says, The Mean Machine is the longest yard on horse tranquilizers. It takes its premise of guards playing inmates in a football match way too seriously to the point where Vinnie Jones looks like a kicked puppy for the first half of the film. Things liven up considerably once the game actually starts, but the preceding hour and change are in danger of putting you to sleep before it arrives, which I think we said, like the match is really where it picks up. As a psychotic killer goalie, Jason Statham is barely in this. He has maybe a minute and a half of screen time in the first hour. As the goalie in the big game, though, he gets a couple of good fantasy sequences, and this is the first movie to cast him as guy everyone is afraid of, an archetype that will serve him well in years to come. So I think that's quite important, like to think about his trajectory. This is kind of that first one where he's like a total badass.
Yeah, I agree with that because you watch Snatch and he's a boxing promoter, he's a bit of a rogue with Stephen Graham, but they're not, he's Turkish, isn't he, in that, you know, they're nothing. When he come up against, obviously, what's he called? I'm an horrible, what's he called? The old bloke with the big glasses.
Bricktop.
Bricktop, what a character he is. Brilliant character. But again, he is the gangster. They're nothing. You know, they come up against, as they call them, the pikeys in it. And I'm quoting the film, guys. I'm not trying to be offensive. That's what they call him in the film. He's nothing. So I always have trouble watching this because he's just a normal guy and he's a bit of a rogue. He obviously can handle himself, but he's not at that level. Whereas everything else that precedes is pretty much, he's a one-man army, isn't he? So that's a great, I think that's a great movie to pick that we've done today, Jax, because it is the catalyst of his career because he takes the top off and everyone goes, holy shit, where's he got that body from?
Yeah.
He's massive. Obviously, he was a diver. He's kept the body. I'm not saying that he hasn't taken his vitamins and said his prayers after that, as he's got in his 40s. About you saying the middle-aged spread that we all can get when we get in our 40s. You know, I'm testament to that at the moment. So I get it, but I can't get rid of this unless I take my vitamins, my friend.
Fair enough. I'm right there with you. No, but that I'm glad you used that phrase. Like, this trajectory is exactly what this show's about, and it really is interesting to see that it's just every movie is just another little step up to where he's going to eventually go. And this is, the one, he is in an action movie, but he's more he's more guns than he is fighting in that movie. In fact, the only couple of times he gets in a fight with Jet Li, he gets absolutely annihilated, which is probably fairly accurate, to be fair. But here, although he's not physically like in martial arts fights, as you said, he's absolutely ripped, and he's showing off his like martial arts like skills, isn't he, when he's doing like kind of Tai Chi, kata in the cage.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a scary guy in this, which is what he's about to become from this point forwards, really, from the transporter forwards.
Yeah. And what a great film to pick for us to come on. I've enjoyed this, mate.
We've got Every Movie 2018. He says, Jason Statham is honestly the standout for me. He hardly says 2 words in the movie, thank goodness, because of his accent. But how he's played for comedic effect is fantastic. And it's mad to think that he's gone from playing those type of roles to taking the lead in so many blockbuster movies. So again, it's nice to see people acknowledging that trajectory and where he's at and where he's come from, and where he's going. Yeah.
Sorry, perfect segue into everything else that you're going to review after this as well. Perfect.
It's literally next, isn't it? The Transporter is his first leading role. And thank goodness for it. I love The Transporter. It's a great movie. And that really is the kick on. All right, last one. This is from Mark Cunliffe. He says, it's very much a film of its time, coming off the back of Lock, Stock and the Like, which revitalised British cinema in the late 90s. Unfortunately, it isn't a production that is improving with age, and its tin-eared script, stilted gore-blimey acting, heavy cliches and poor pacing is certainly ensuring its reputation as something of a misfire. So generally about the movie, it's what we agree with, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the old Burt Reynolds actioner, you can believe the thuggish, thick-armed Deep South violence and feel the threat of the gun-toting prison wardens, which is totally alien and absent to the UK. Everything is just a bit too safe. There's really not that much to play for, which I agree with you said about how like the prison stuff doesn't play realistic here in Mean Machine.
No, it plays on every. It says it in one of the reviews, like it got unintentionally funny because it plays every cliche within the movie. All it needed was someone having a shower and going, "Oh my God, I've dropped the soap." It's all that sort of
absolutely
cliche stuff that
I'm
we grew up
surprised
with
we didn't get that.
No, I mean he was having a shower at one point. I know it's not. If you've ever seen American History X, it's not that. Now that does have some terrible prison scenes. That's all I'm going to say. But there wasn't that. But I did think there was going to be some sort of moment like that, and there wasn't. But it was everything else was the same. The gangster runs everything. It all runs through the old bloke who's been there. Nobody messes with him. He absolutely runs the wing with an iron fist, sort of thing. I know. I covered the. Have you not covered? Have you watched the Sean Bean prison series that was on BBC?
Time, that was brilliant. Yeah,
great film. Great film. Now Sean Bean, obviously, you always know him as a psycho, but he was a teacher, wasn't he? And he wasn't. And Stephen Graham was the prison warden. And then you had the other guy who actually run the wing. He was always sort of bullying him, wasn't he, all the way through. But that was a bit more believable because he was seen as a weak touch, a soft touch, which is what they do with prisoners. But it was very everything you see in that. I don't necessarily think it's most prisoners are out for themselves.
The explosion here just doesn't pay up, doesn't feel real as well, does it?
No,
it all feels, as you said, let's come back to something you said before, it feels Hollywood enforced. It feels like we need to inject that in here rather than in The Longest Yard. It feels natural, and that could have happened, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, because it's very dingy in The Longest Yard. It plays well with that Deep South horrible prison. Like everyone's going around stinking of BO and the clothes are all dirty and everything. It's a real. It does feel like a proper prison.
Yeah, agreed. So just to finish off what this guy has to say, he said, there is still a fair bit to enjoy here if you look beyond the limitations of its star, Vinnie Jones, who may have proved himself above the usual sports stars before a film camera and Lock, Stock, but who struggles to carry a film solo. The supporting cast make this movie, and I'm going to skip a little bit through his review because then he says, and Jason Statham, you steal the film.
Very good ending, that, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Yeah. I agree with that.
All right, mate. So would you consider this amongst his filmography a classic worth catching or for completists only?
Completists only.
So
Definitely.
We can just give it a skip.
Yeah, I think so. I think anybody listening who's interested in it, if you just more, maybe you like me, you love the original, you've seen the original, even if you've seen the Adam Sandler one, you might think, oh, might just, because in some respects, it's almost a trilogy of the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, it's an English version of an American series, really. But I wouldn't recommend this to anyone at all.
Fair enough. Well, then, thank you for taking one for the team. That's both you and Dave now, and providing your thoughts on it. What have you got coming up that people can be sure they tune in for?
Well, if you're into reality TV, and I'm sure all of you listening are, get over to our podcast, Chris and Dave's Reality Cast, CD Reality Cast, and we're doing a daily podcast on Love Island UK. And that podcast is crazy, but there you go. Also, big thanks to you, mate, as well for doing this. And it's so good what you're doing. It's something completely different as well, which I love. And I love the fact that you're going through all these movies. Perfect. Absolutely perfect, mate. And I definitely want to come back on 100%. I do down the line. Please give us a shout through the summer or whatever, and I'll come on and do the business with them. Hopefully, we pick one where he's actually kicking ass in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Properly. And there's no Vinnie Jones in sight, which would be even better. But no, if you want to get us over at the VHS Strikes Back, we go movies from 2005 backwards. Big thanks to you, Jack, as well. One of our patrons, mate. You've supported us all the way along. I do appreciate it. We just absolutely watch some classics and we watch some god-awful movies, because if I'm not stitching Dave up and he's not stitching me up, all our patrons are stitching us both up. So that's how it should be, which is brilliant. And Comics in Motion, guys, get over to our feed on there. There's so many lovely people doing so many great shows. Jax is doing the business, so you've got to listen to this and tune in. But honestly, really, really good stuff on there. And it's so humbling that we've got so many good friends who just are producing all sorts of stuff. It's brilliant.
Amazing, mate. Thank you so much. I mean, there's so much to unpick there, but CD Reality Cast couldn't have been named any better. I know you feel like you've come to that by accident, but it's brilliant.
We did.
And VHS Strikes Back is an absolute highlight of my listening week. It's so good hearing you two just having such a good laugh with each other.
Some of the stuff we've got coming up, mate, honestly. Oh, my God. You may be thinking, why am I even following this podcast?
That's exactly the stuff I'm following it for.
Oh, mate, been so good. So good.
All right. And thank you, everyone, for listening and partaking in this journey with me through the Stath's filmography. That was Mean Machine. And next up in a fortnight is The Transporter, followed by another remake after that, The Italian Job. I'm Jack's Musings, and that's JACS, and you can find me on Twitter where I am most active. You can also contact the show directly on Twitter under the name Back to the Filmog. Please make sure you use the hashtag #FollowTheFilmography. This show has been presented to you by the Pop Gorillas, a collection of hive minds who provide spoiler-free reviews of anything from pop culture in less time than it takes to listen to a song. And I'm also a proud member of the Comics in Motion family, a super place full of the world's greatest people, dedicated to bringing you podcasts on a variety of geeky topics. So please make sure you take the time to search, subscribe, and rate our shows whenever and wherever you listen. Until next time, be excellent to each other and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers. Cut.